Hi guys, welcome back to the next Skyblock episode. So the goal for today is to make the automatic beehive farm. So we need a lot of adult bees to expand our honey farm or honeycomb farm in the end dimension. And by growing a lot of trees with flower nearby, we can get the bee nest. We can take those bees, put it into beehives, and then later, move it over and place it in the nether dimension. Alright, so first I want to check up on the progress of this little honey farm made in the last episode. I think somebody already crafted all the honey bottles into honey blocks. So let's check it out. We almost got 6 stacks of honey blocks. So this should definitely be enough for the leaf crushers that I want to use for the bee nest farm. Alright, so I would say this episode we're actually going to spend quite some time in creative mode to figure out the farm. It's going to be quite complex actually. So let's head over to creative. So what is the plan now? I want to make a farm to get those blocks here with bees inside. The way to do this is using a vanilla feature that was added in 1.15.2. If you grow a birch or an oak sapling, a flower nearby, then there's a small chance that one of those blocks would generate. We also will use some Skyblock features in order to automate the farm a bit further. So the first one is we can place saplings with a dispenser, and the second feature, we can move those blocks for piston. You couldn't do that in vanilla because the block can have some MBT and those blocks can't be moved in vanilla. Yeah, but with those two features we can actually make a really interesting farm. Before we start designing the farm, we need to know some basics first. We need to know where the beehive blocks would generate, so we can pull them out of the tree growing area and store them later. So in case we have a birch tree, where we limited the tree height to 5 using a block here, the beehives would generate in those 3 positions. They couldn't generate on the north side because all the beehives would face towards south. And it would generate on the north side, then it will point into the lock, and the bees could never exit. So that's why they can only generate in those 3 positions. I'm using the birch tree, by the way, because I think it's a bit easier to work with that tree type. With the oak tree, we would have actually leaves 1 block lower, and they could also just grow 4 high. So I think the birch tree is probably the best way to approach this. Okay, so what do we need to do as well? We need to break leaves in order to get saplings back so the farm could keep running. Of course, we also need to supply it with some bone meal, but I'll just bring it over and won't produce it on site. So I think we have some skeleton farm somewhere. Can just bring over a couple bone blocks and feed the dispenser this way. In terms of leaf breaking, I think I'm gonna go for a super simple solution, so we know the tree will always generate in the same position. And if I just have leaf crushers on those 2 sides and take out those leaves, we should get enough saplings back. That's around 35 blocks that we break, and we would only need to break 20. So we could use a simple double piston extender here, break those couple leaves, and then we should already get enough saplings. We don't need to worry about the rest of the saplings. What we also need to do is we need to move the logs out so we can first of all grow the next tree. Removing one of the logs isn't enough. We actually have to remove 2 of the logs. So this one as well. Otherwise the bee nest wouldn't generate. I'm not quite sure what's the best approach is to get rid of the logs. I think maybe a double piston extender here at the bottom would be best. So as soon as the tree would grow, we would activate double piston extender under the dirt block, then push it or pull it back, then we can grow the next tree. Then at the top we get the extra logs. We have to push them somewhere and get rid of them, of course. So either we use some kind of a TNT system to blow them up, or we use fire maybe to burn them. That could be actually an interesting way to get rid of them. Unfortunately, fire wouldn't be reliable, but we could probably make it a way so there's like a 1 in a billion chance that it would break, which would be definitely enough for us. So I'm not quite sure. We have to decide that later what we're gonna do with the logs. So next, in my opinion, a really interesting problem. How do we get the beehives out? So first of all, we need to know that we can't place pistons around them directly, because in the 5x5 area around the tree trunk, it's detrimental if you place any non-log or dirt blocks. So in this area we shouldn't have any pistons. But yeah, we still need to get those somehow. So I already thought about it a little bit. I think it would be maybe a good idea to put another log down here that doesn't affect the tree growth, and have another sticky piston in the back. So right here, we push this one in, and then it pushes the beehive one block forward, and then we can retract it again. So we would basically need a setup like this one here, and just maybe an observer on top. So this would be totally fine for the tree growth. Actually, this would need to trigger twice. To get the lock back in the default position. Could maybe... Yeah, what we could do is probably add 2 observers. I'm not sure if that's a good idea. Let's try that. Or something like that. Just gonna break those blocks here. And just trigger this one piston here in the back. So it would be quite simple. This would actually work quite nicely. It's not the fastest, but it's not my goal to make this farm as fast as possible. It's more like to come up with a simple solution first. Alright, then we have all the bee nests lined up, but only one of those would generate, of course. So we just need to deal with all 3 possible locations. So next I would suggest to have pistons right here. They could pull them in 1 block further. So actually we would need to pull them even 2 blocks. So we would need pistons here. Some observers on top. Then we want to pull them in. Then another piston maybe here at the top. Could push them down. So something like that. Let's try that actually. Then we just need to power the single piston again. Pull it in. Then we could have pistons here on the side that deal with all the possible situations. So let's say we have one generated over there. Power this, and then we can push it down. And then got this block stream at the bottom, and we can deal with it later. It's actually quite a simple solution. We just have to power single pistons on both sides and just need to time it. So I have a bit of progress to show. I figured out the double piston extender system here at the bottom. It was a bit tricky because I decided to actually use the comparator tree detection as soon as the sapling grow into logs. Then we can take an output through that log with the comparator, and then that triggers the double piston extender. The double piston extender is actually super simple. Quickly show that. It's just that. But unfortunately we get this double pulsing because as soon as we push up the dirt block we get a second signal. So it's a bit tricky, but yeah, I figured it out. Let's actually grow a sapling real quick. Bit random. Takes a while. So there we go. Everything is back to the default state. Okay, so we actually get 2 pulses coming from this. I thought we could use that maybe to hook it up directly to the leaf crushers, because there we actually also need 2 signals. So I thought maybe we could have a rail sending the signal. So far it's almost a redstone-less farm, and send it up here somehow. So that should actually work. Let's try that out. Let's grow another tree. The top I just push the logs over for now. Yep, looks good. Okay, just need to hook it up to the other side as well, and then we got quite some progress done. Designing is going really smooth right now. So also got the beehive pushing done. Just gonna place a block here to show it. So we got at this position now. We just need to power this piston at some point, and then this one a bit later, and we can already push him down. What we also always need is like a block in front of the beehive, so the bees can't exit. Okay, so I got the farm to a state where it can run automatically. I added the bone meal dispenser. We can turn it on here. And I also added the sapling collection system with an item filter. So over here we sort out all the sticks and just put them into lava or fire, since we don't have any use for them. And the saplings would go back towards the dispenser here. I think actually making quite some plus there. Should maybe also add some kind of a system that can deal with it overflowing. Yeah, definitely actually making a big plus in terms of saplings. Okay, the rest of the system is also working. Even got the first bee nest already. Yeah, currently I have one wither rose here in the back that I placed in order to get rid of the bees that would exit the hive immediately, and it should also enable the hive generation in the first place. Okay, now let's take a look at here at the top. I'm trying the solution to burn the logs, but that's not working too great. So we already kind of have the ideal setup to have the highest chance to burn logs, but I don't think it's gonna be enough. We might need to go back to a TNT blast chamber maybe. So a fire block can spread up to 4 blocks upwards, and to turn an air block that is adjacent to a burnable block to a fire block. That's why I also have this gap in between this fire and the logs above, so we can have an air block that can be turned into a fire block below, and even a second layer of fire, so that it still can reach up to here and turn this into fire. But yeah, that's just too much incoming. This is way too slow. Unfortunately, this won't work, but would have been a nice idea. The fire system has been removed and replaced by a proper TNT system. We actually decided to not use any TNT duping for new projects on the server anymore, since we don't need it. We have renewable sand, we can make a gunpowder farm, so crafting TNT with the autocrafters is not a problem anymore, but we still don't want to waste it. So the easiest would have been to place a TNT duper there that every couple logs that come in would blow it up. If you would use a dispenser instead, it would also be fine, but quite expensive over time. So that's why I decided to use the proper TNT system that can blow up 240 logs with 1 TNT. Yeah, since we put in so much effort, we can probably also collect those logs and store them, so we get a secondary use out of the farm. Alright, then next thing I added was actually the first the first concept kinda for a block storage, but I ran into some issues that I overlooked. Because the front side of the hive, of the current system that I made, is exposed to air for a while. So we would have a piston here that pushes the hives over, but then of course there's an air block in between. That means the bees could exit the hive, and that actually happens kind of immediately. We remove one of those blocks here, bam, bees are outside. So we would need to make some kind of a system where the front side is always covered up with some block, but that's not that easy. If you think about the options here, if we would push the hives in the other direction, so I have a piston here and push them over, and have the same issue just on this side. If we would have pistons, for example here, to push them over, then we have the same problem. If you have pistons on this side, well, that's probably the proper approach, because then we could place blocks in front and cover those up. But unfortunately those blocks would all be pushed over, and we need to bring them back into the default position. So I'm not sure what's the best way to do that actually. I was hoping we could maybe do it with water. No, that also doesn't stop the bees from exiting. Just to be sure, let's also try lava. Yep, just what I thought would happen. Let's go with the simple solution here. We can just place down a wall of blocks that is easy to remove, like netherrack or dirt comes to mind, and those blocks will just be pushed with remove the incoming bee blocks. But the bee blocks are protected from the front, so the bees won't exit. The player that mines blocks later just has to start from the back, and also in the end remove the netherrack and place it again. That's also something we don't have to do all the time. The farm isn't incredibly fast in terms of bee production. Get maybe, I haven't tested it yet, maybe 40 or 50 of those bee blocks per hour. So it would take more than 1 day real time anyway to fill this up completely. So this is not something we have to do all the time. Alright, I guess we're completely done here. Might need to add some smaller details like a bone block, the bone meal crafting system, shulker box fillers here and there. And we also have to worry about getting bone meal actually, because farm, yeah, like this one here that runs a full day will actually burn through quite a lot of bone meal. And we still don't have a proper farm for it. We still have the beginner hostile mob farm from the very start of the season. So we might actually need to invest some time into making hostile mob farm again. So I started building a platform, and look what I discovered. A lot of the bees that escaped actually fell in the void, but hover just around Y0. I think we're gonna need to get rid of them in order to reduce lag. Probably a good idea. Shoot them with arrows. It could be a nice idea for a minigame, I guess. Alright. It took us about 2 hours to build this up in survival. I got some help from Helga, Gwen and Boom Boom, and it seems like it's working great. So the TNT blast chamber already blew up the first couple logs. We even put in a double chest there to collect some of them. And we also have the first bee nest blocks incoming. So by now we have, I think, 3 or 4 in total. Yeah, farm is going great. I got all the bone meal I could find. We have about 40,000 bone meal that could run this farm probably for a couple of hours, but we definitely soon need to work on some bone meal supply. That might be actually something we can do in the next episode. So that's all for today. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next episode. Bye bye guys.